Check, 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 check.
Check, check, check.
Check, 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 check.
Check.
That was pretty high.
I can't do high.
It was higher than mine.
Was it?
I think so.
Okay. Long time no chat.
Has been a while, hasn't it? Feels like ages.
I know, it's only been 3 weeks, but I guess that's quite a big gap for us.
It feels like we're out of touch.
Like, with each other's lives or with Apple stuff?
Both. But more importantly, each other's lives.
Right.
But it's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah. I got a whole year older since then.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thanks. Thanks for the awesome video. You have a very very cute family.
Thanks. It was well, yours was pretty much impossible to top. So I had to bring in help to try and live up to the high standards of birthday singing video messages that you set.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to beat cute kids.
Well, that was the ace in my pocket. Definitely didn't top you on singing ability though. It was all over the place.
I liked the handful of false starts at the beginning. Trying to frame yourself.
Yeah.
So,
did you have a good birthday?
Yeah, I did. It was nice. Got to spend it with all the kids, which is pretty much the most you could ask for once you get to my old age.
Your ripe old age of 27.
Yeah. Any older than that, and you're getting into ridiculous territory.
It starts to get difficult to get out of bed in the morning, all sorts of things like that. Tough to play sports.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
It's not that bad.
Yeah. So, well, we got a whole Apple event to get into. But before that, I wanted a little bit, I guess as follow-up from last show, about how I'd gotten back to using a Macintosh as my main personal computer. And one of the glaring weaknesses of Mac OS, at least in my opinion, as compared to a Windows operating system, is the lack of clipboard history. That's something that I've gotten very used to using in Windows, to the point where I'll copy 5 or 6 things to my clipboard knowing I can get back to them anytime. And not being able to do that on my Mac felt like I was really hurting my productivity. And so I spent some time looking for a solution to the problem. And there's a handful of applications that solve it, but I had a hard time finding something that was just added clipboard history and wasn't clipboard history as a feature on top of a bunch of other stuff that I didn't need. But I ultimately found a program called, I don't know if it's Macy or Mackie. It's Maccy. It's on the App Store, and it does exactly what I wanted, and I wanted to recommend it for anyone else who misses clipboard history from Windows. It's very configurable, and it basically replicates the Windows clipboard history. So, yeah, highly recommend it.
Well, it's got to be Mackie, because Macy's only got one C. So I'm definitely going with Mackie on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
And as it says in the subtitle, copy history without the fluff.
Right, yeah,
I've tried it, maybe not a lot, but I've tried a number of clipboard managers because people who use them love them and swear by them.
Mm-hmm.
And yet none have stuck around on my computer for more than a few days at a time. So, I mean, I'm looking at Mackie in the App Store, the Mac App Store, and it's got the price there, so I've never bought this one before, so I think I'm going to have a crack.
I recommend it, and I recommend taking some time to go through all of the configuration options and really make it fit whatever you need. Because out of the box, it didn't match my expectations, but it was so configurable that I was able to make it suit my needs.
The other thing is I had no idea Windows had clipboard history.
Mm-hmm.
Is that since Windows 10?
Yes, I believe it is a Windows 10 thing. So instead of Control V for paste, if you use Windows key V, it brings up a clipboard history.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing for me. So, and now I've kind of got this perfect operating system, or the idea of a perfect operating system in my head. And I've got ways to make Windows fit into it and Mac OS fit into it now. Because when I'm on a Mac, what I need to do is like install a clipboard history tool and something like Magnet, so I can drag my windows to the edges of the screen to snap to a specific size, which are two things that Windows does automatically that I missed. And on Windows, the main thing that I always have to install is a quick look equivalent, so I can quickly press spacebar and preview my files, because I miss that way too much from Mac OS.
Oh yeah, quick look is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and there's a quick look program on the Windows App Store that has been excellent.
Okay. The tiling thing. So, what do you use for that?
I use Magnet.
Okay. Oh, that was the name of the app. You said that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that it's the best one, but it was the first one I ever used, and it works good enough for me. I know there's a lot of options out there.
But Windows can never be the perfect operating system because it's not integrated with like iMessage and all the other Apple services.
Yeah, there's some things that you'll always miss out on. But as long as I can get those little conveniences back, it's at least tolerable.
And are you set up on Monterey now?
My personal Mac is on Monterey. The Macintosh that I'm using to record this show is still on Big Sur.
I took the plunge and installed Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at, beta 6 now for Monterey?
Something like that.
It is rock solid for me. No issues at all. So if anyone's on the fence about it, I wouldn't hesitate to say just go for it and install it.
Yeah, and I think it's been solid. I've been on it since beta 1, and I haven't had any complaints.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That also is true for iOS 15. It has just been absolutely rock solid. I don't think I had a single issue on any of the betas.
Yeah, there's usually at least like one or two apps that just won't work for the first few betas, but that wasn't the case at all this year.
Yeah, it's been tremendous.
Yeah.
The final release of 15 is out too, isn't it? I think I saw that pop up on my phone.
The release candidate is out, right?
Oh, is it the release candidate? Right.
Maybe the final release is out. I don't know when that was supposed to happen.
Not to the public, but
yeah,
I suppose it would be a release candidate. It didn't say like beta X or it just said iOS 15 install, and it was a big one.
Okay. Yeah, iOS 15 is available to the public on September 20th. So, and the release candidate came out recently, which is what they call Gold Masters now.
Gold Master.
Golden Master, or whatever. They've
got
changed their naming.
I think I'll stay on that one forever. It's got a good ring to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, the Mac before that. I had to take the 2 terabyte drive out of my computer, did I tell you?
No, why is that?
It just had issues. I knew something like this would happen, but just, out of the blue, every now and then the computer would kernel panic, and every time it started up and I went through the error logs, it was always something NVMe IO related. So,
really?
Yeah, it was really frustrating because the actual the drive that came with the computer was only 256 gig, and I had the 2 terabyte drive in there. So I've just switched them back. So I'm back on pleb amount of space, but at least it's stable.
Is that because like the 2 terabyte drive was just a cheap, inconsistent one, or is it just like a security issue between the drive and the computer, or do you know what the issue was?
I don't know exactly. I mean, it wasn't a cheap one. It was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't one that ever shipped in an Apple computer. So I think the issue might lie somewhere between the interface on the motherboard and the interface on the drive, because Apple's slot is, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's not like you have to. The regular NVMe drive needs an adapter to slot in, so you have to buy this little like $25 miniature adapter from Amazon to get it to work. I bet the problem lies in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But it was the second drive that I bought, and the first one didn't work like at all. It wouldn't even. I mean, it worked. I got macOS up and running, but it wouldn't run for 24 hours without crashing. This one was more like a couple of weeks without crashing. But even that was too much for me.
Is it possible to buy a drive that doesn't need the adapter?
Well, it must be, but you probably have to get one that's come out of a MacBook already.
Yeah, probably.
Like there's a massive like 500-page Mac Rumors forum post about this whole topic, and the recommendation is to get this adapter and get X drive or Y drive. And there's a huge table of what works best and how much power they all use and their write speeds and the read speeds. And a lot of people have put in a lot of work into working this out.
And did you follow their recommendations?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay. And still not quite good enough.
Not quite good enough. So I think I'm going to live with 256 and just tick the optimized storage box in everything that can have it turned on. Until another computer falls in my lap, hopefully with some Apple Silicon.
Maybe in another month.
But anyway, enough talk about that. We've got like so much other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it.
An entire Apple event. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you take the day off work as a religious holiday to watch the event, or is that...
Yes, I did have the day off of work.
You did?
It was a little bit serendipitous. I took the day off before I realized it was an Apple event day, so it worked out.
That's what you told the boss anyway, huh?
I mean, my boss is very aware how important the keynotes are for me. I had a meeting with him yesterday morning, and he asked me how was the keynote and what am I going to buy.
Well, it's good that he cares. It would have been very suspicious that you just happened to have the day off, though, especially with him knowing that.
Well, I use those exact words. I tell him that those keynotes are religious holidays, so...
So he's cool with it.
Yep.
What did you think about the event as an event, in and of itself?
Fairly underwhelming, I think, as a whole. There were some highlights, but overall it wasn't as exciting as some of their events have been in the past, which was a disappointment for me. I had a friend come over and watch the keynote with me, and he's not one that's very into Apple stuff generally, and I was like, no, you got to come watch this. It's a big deal. They're always exciting to watch, and then it ended up being not very exciting.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
But I actually had, I felt the opposite about it.
Really?
I think my expectations might have been lower than yours. Because, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing. I didn't do the get up at 2 a.m. to watch it. I just woke up in the morning. Johannes and I started watching around 6:30.
Okay.
And Johannes was actually glued to it as well, which I thought said a lot for Apple's presentation of the whole thing. He's being 4 years old. He's typically, if I'm watching like a video about photography, he's not going to sit there for more than 30 seconds because it gets boring. But yeah, he was fairly glued to it.
They got so many neat transitions and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly that.
Yeah. Well, you also were going into the keynote needing to purchase quite a few things.
Needing, I like that.
I would say needing, considering that your phone and watch are both broken. And I
What do
was
you mean? Yeah.
And I was going into it with a perfectly good working phone and watch, and was hoping to be very convinced that they needed to be upgraded.
Sorry. I take it from that tone that you're not convinced at all anymore.
Yeah, I'm on the fence as far as the watch thing goes. We'll see what happens, when those eventually come out. But the phone wasn't really an option. That's just something I have to do every year. But I wasn't as excited about it as it could have been.
Top of my list was AirPods, actually, and breaking news, they didn't get announced at all.
Yeah.
There's actually a rumor last night that they were going to be announced in a press release very shortly. I kind of half expected to wake up this morning. I'm not sure what I was thinking there and seeing them released, but
I mean that's in
that would
line
have
with
been a
it.
Friday afternoon.
Only the very first pair of AirPods were in a keynote. Even the AirPods Pro were just a press release. So that could very much happen.
Really? Oh, I didn't remember that. It seems like such a huge product to just stick in a press release. I mean, I guess
know,
the
yeah.
AirPods 2 were just a minor update, but the Pros were totally different.
Yeah.
The Maxes?
I do not remember if they were. I think they were just press release. But I know the Pros were.
So AirPods were top of my list. Second would have been a phone, but I actually went and got my phone screen replaced the other week, so I'm not desperate for a phone anymore.
Oh, okay.
And the watch, I'm always on the fence about the watch. So
Did you get it replaced with an LCD or an OLED?
I got an OLED in the end.
Okay.
And it's actually a really good one. It's almost as good as Apple's. The only complaint I would have about it is what do you call it when, like, if there's some very contrasty thing on the screen and you switch to like a white screen and you see the shadow or the ghost of what was there before
persistence?
for half a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not as good as Apple screens in that respect, but everything else looks fine, especially the color.
Well, that's good. Can't believe you went out and did that. Should have just got a new phone.
Well, I thought if I'm going to be selling this phone anyway, I should probably sell it with a decent screen.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's what pushed me over the fence. Just back on the event, the actual transitions and all the drone photography, I thought it was really cool. It was perhaps a little over the top because there was a lot of it, but it was fun.
Yeah.
More so than other events.
It makes me wonder if Apple's ever going to go back to like fully in-person events. I feel like they have to, just because they're missing out on that hands-on that the press get after the keynotes. But otherwise, like fully produced keynote works out so much better for them. There's never going to be any demo errors or anything else, and they're so well done and engaging. It's going to be a little disappointing when those aren't around anymore.
I wonder if they split it, like the real top tier launches go back to in-person events, and like they've got a second tier of pre-recorded launches, and then the third tier is just the press release, or just invite a few members of the press to a room somewhere.
Right.
That'd be cool to have. So then you've got best of every world.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I couldn't remember the exact order of the event, but I think TV Plus was first, wasn't it?
Yep, that's the very first thing it did, is a whole like a sizzle reel of everything coming up.
Is that what they're called?
I believe that would be the correct term for it.
Why is it a sizzle reel?
Is that not something you've ever heard before?
No, first time for me.
Oh, okay. Well, sizzle reels are short promotional videos, also known as demo reels, highlight reels, show reels, blah, blah, blah.
Is it because it's everything that's on the burner at the moment?
I don't know. I've never actually spent any time thinking about why it's called that.
So there was a sizzle reel. And there is a lot of stuff that I'm very interested in TV Plus. It's nice to see that.
Yeah.
That there is stuff that I'm really excited about, because it was kind of pretty bare bones watching for a little while there.
Yeah, they just had a handful of shows, but yeah, they've got, well, right now I'm excited about Ted Lasso, which is about to be wrapping up its second season. The morning show that's just starting its second season. There's that Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd show, like the Therapist Next Door or something like that looked really good. I think those are the three.
There's something
that stood out to me
from an Isaac Asimov story.
Oh,
Foundation,
right.
I think that one is.
Yeah.
That one looks really good. With that actor that's in everything. I can't remember. The one that's in Chernobyl. And also in That other one that's in space.
I'll take your word for it. Oh, Tom Hanks? Is that your thinking of?
No. Oh, goodness. All right, hang on. Foundation. Jared Harris.
Oh,
Gosh, he's in so much stuff. It's insane how much stuff he's been in recently. What was I thinking of? I was thinking of...
I'm very bad with actor names.
Where is it? Give it to me. The Expanse is what I was thinking of. He's in The Expanse. He's in The Crown. He's in The Terror, Chernobyl, Carnival Row, Mad Men. Gosh, he's just... Yeah.
Yeah, TV Plus seems to be doing better than I would have guessed it would be a couple years ago. They've got a lot of really high-quality shows. I mean, they certainly don't have the volume of some of the other streaming services, but the quality is definitely there.
There was also a number of subscribers rumored or maybe projected. I don't think it was from Apple themselves, but it was a very respectable number of paying subscribers to TV Plus as well.
Yeah. I wonder how many of those are because they're bundled with Apple One, like how that breaks out.
Oh, yeah. Probably one or two at least.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, have you actually watched Ted Lasso yet?
I've watched 3 episodes so far.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3.
All right. You need to catch up.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Was Fitness Plus up next? I can't remember the order again.
Yeah, that sounds right. It was early on. I believe it was Fitness Plus.
So 3 kind of mini announcements. The addition of Pilates, which is nice to have. It's like somewhere between yoga and just lying on the floor. I've got guided meditation, which is sitting on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
No, tongue-in-cheek saying those. Both I'm very pleased to see come to Fitness Plus. And the third one was the group, what do they call it? Group something.
Oh, the group workouts through SharePlay.
Group workouts, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was incredibly underwhelming. Let's just add SharePlay to Fitness Plus and we'll say we've got group workouts now.
Yeah. I think you could see like everyone's progress on the burn bar, but other than that, it seems still like pretty isolated experience for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited about guided meditation. I downloaded and tried out the Calm app a couple months ago, and I liked the idea of it a lot. I liked the meditations that I went through on there, but I don't even remember what the price was, but it was just obscenely high. It wasn't enough to justify the Calm app in my mind. So I'm happy to see that it's going to be part of this service now, so I don't have to pay extra for it.
That's exactly my experience. I've tried all sorts of apps, and the free ones are usually not that great, and then the paid ones, it's hard to justify the cost because they're often quite expensive.
Right.
So just to get it for free, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I found it ironic. It was like the very first recommended guided meditation that I went through after subscribing to the Calm app. It was something about helping you with financial stress. It was like, I just paid $30 for a month of this app, and now they're going to tell me not to stress about money.
Maybe they noticed a certain pattern for new subscribers looking for that sort of thing. Apple's first guided meditation is not to worry about bundling services together. It's fine. Just pay for the bundle.
It's worth it in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, so some ups and downs for Fitness Plus.
Yeah, at least they're still putting effort into it. It's not something that they launched and then never mentioned again.
Yep. Next off the bat was the iPad. The iPad.
Yeah, the
Just
iPad.
the budget one.
Nothing.
The iPad, who cares, as I've written in the notes.
I mean, overall, a pretty average, underwhelming update, just a processor bump, basically. But I was blown away to see the front-facing camera from the iPad Pro make it all the way down to the cheapest iPad. I was really happy to see that they'd done that.
That center stage feature must be really loved by some people. They must be seeing some stats that says let's put center stage in everything, because I think that center stage needs it's a 12 megapixel front camera.
Yeah. Well, it at least needs the extra wide field of view, whatever camera they put behind it. But yeah.
And you'd probably need those extra megapixels if you're always going to be zooming in on something or other.
Right. Yeah. So that's a not insignificant hardware bump on the very cheap iPad.
It's probably the most popular iPad that sells as well, being the cheapest.
Oh yeah, that's what they said on stage, was it was their most popular iPad. And I'm sure it is by a very wide margin, considering that, you know, this is the iPad schools buy, and they buy hundreds at a time.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure they sell more of these than probably every other iPad combined.
Yeah, you're probably right. You'd only need a couple of schools to make like a big en masse purchase.
Right.
And then you've got crazy numbers. The base storage was bumped, wasn't it, as well?
Right, yeah, it went up to 64, which I'm happy to see. 32 is a joke for an amount. I think 64 is bordering on that as well. But it's at least usable, whereas I think 32 is not.
32 is usable. I've got 32 gig iPad here.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's always sitting around 31 gig, but it's still usable. It goes about its business unloading apps and deleting things here and there and just downloading when you need them.
And that's just when you use it. Imagine a school iPad where they've got the multiple accounts set up and every student has their own stuff on there. And
oh, yeah, everything would have to be on the fly, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So also somewhat notable is they've ditched the white bezels with this generation. So if you get space gray or silver, there's going to have a black front on it.
I wonder if that's just a cost-saving measure.
Maybe. I never thought the white bezels looked especially good. So I'm fine with it. I think the silver and black actually looks pretty good together.
White bezels around a screen are always bad.
Mm-hmm. My very first iPad was white. But that's basically because I just wanted the one that looked different than kind of the traditional iPad you expected at that time.
Which iPad was that? Because I didn't think the first gen came in white.
I didn't get the first gen. My first iPad was a second gen. And so white was the new color, so I had to get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking to a first gen iPader here, so...
Ah, okay.
Bow to my legitimacy.
Did you have the, terribly unergonomic Apple case with it?
You know I did. Day one.
With those, sharp seams on them for some reason?
I didn't hate it. I thought it was all right.
Yeah. They've definitely got a lot better at case design in the last decade.
Yeah, it's a funny case, wasn't it? Tricky to get in and out of.
Yeah.
Added a lot of bulk. Picked up a lot of dirt. Didn't clean the screens like the smart ones did in future generations.
Oh, man, that smart case that Steve Jobs unveiled with the iPad 2 was pretty dang cool. So cool that that's still the case they sell today, so definitely a good design.
Yep. Yeah, that's the case I've got, actually. That one.
Yeah, I love it. If I missed it a lot when I went to iPad Pro and had this bigger, bulkier keyboard case, but I felt like I had to carry the keyboard around because it was useful at times, but I missed the lightweight case.
And next up was the iPad Mini, which had a massive update.
Yeah, definitely the highlight of the show for me.
Easily. So the iPad Mini now looks like an iPad Air, but mini.
Mm-hmm. And it's at this point that I'd like to recommend a renaming of Apple's iPad lineup.
Again, we do this every show.
It's just so worth pointing out. iPad Air should just be iPad. iPad Mini then would make sense because it would be the mini version of the iPad. iPad Pro should be the smaller iPad Pro, and they should have iPad Pro Max, so that matches their two size lineup. And then the discount cheap iPad should be iPad SE, just like Apple Watch SE, just like iPhone SE. All right, that's my rant.
Okay. Yeah,
that's my rant.
That's all right. That's a good rant.
Yeah,
it wasn't long enough though. Should have gone a bit longer. Yeah, I'm not sure about iPad SE. Have you got any other thoughts for what the cheap iPad could be? What about iPad education or something like that?
Well, they certainly could. I just meant in the interest of unifying the names across their products, so you understand what each suffix means. It means the same thing for every product. And I think they should drop Air. I hate the Air name. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
iPad Air came about when they first really reduced the heft of the iPad, didn't they? After the iPad 4, and then it was the iPad Air original, and then the 2.
Yeah.
And it got the shrunken bezels and much thinner and lighter.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when Air made sense.
And it wasn't its own category. It lived alongside iPad. iPad Air was just the new iPad. And then they muddied the waters by having iPad 5 after iPad Air 2, and that made no sense.
Well, Apple's not famous for making sensical naming choices.
Yeah, that's fair.
The iPad mini, so it got the nice screen.
Mm-hmm.
It got the A15, although reports are that it's underclocked compared to the iPhone 13's A15.
Which they very coyly did not mention at all during the iPad mini announcement.
Yeah, there was some dodgy language used, I think, which might have pointed to it.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to unveil the A15 with the iPhone itself, but that's silly. It made it confusing why they wouldn't mention the processor this year.
Yeah, just save it for 15 minutes down the in the future.
So, and it's got 5G, but not the millimeter
5G?
wave 5G.
Nah, I'm fine with that. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but the
I
millimeter wave's still a bit of a gimmick, isn't it?
I agree. Yeah, in my time with a 5G phone, I've used it once, sitting in a parking lot, and all I did was a speed test, and that was it. So, I think millimeter wave is probably going to be impractical for many years until there's like little beacons everywhere.
I wonder if it just dies. I wonder if it goes the way of like 3D movies. It's just a gimmick to get people interested in something again. But
Yeah.
never becomes mainstream.
I could certainly see. I think there's use cases where millimeter wave makes sense, like in really congested areas. Like you could easily fill a whole stadium with millimeter wave. You could put them on every corner, and you'd have pretty good coverage everywhere. And places like that where you've got a bunch of people that are trying to eat up the bandwidth all at once could make a lot of sense. So it'd be a nice feature to have, I think. But it's never going to be something that you can just always be connected to.
I wonder if it would make sense on public transport as well.
Oh, yeah.
Stick them down on the ceiling of a train down the length of it for,
Yeah.
aeroplanes. I don't know.
But yeah, I'm fine without it having millimeter wave. As a matter of fact, the US is still the only country that has that, so nowhere else is even going to notice.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah.
The iPad mini gets the Gen 2 Apple Pencil. So it'll click on the side instead of turning the iPad into a weapon.
It looks very funny. The pencil is almost the same
does.
height as the iPad.
Yeah. And the volume buttons moved from the side to the top. So the volume buttons and the lock button are on the same edge, which is the top edge if you're holding it in portrait.
Right.
At first I thought maybe that's for the Apple Pencil, but the Apple Pencil only sticks on one side. So interesting choice. Have you got any ideas why they might have done that?
I don't have any reason why they would have had to put those buttons where they did. But the iPad has, since it was unveiled in 2010, been advertised as a orientation agnostic device. Like that was one of Steve Jobs' big selling points, is you could pick it up anyway and the content would rotate to match your usage. And I think more and more Apple has been pushing the iPad primary orientation being landscape with the keyboard cases and the stereo speakers that only are stereo if it's in landscape. So with those things in mind, I think it actually makes sense for the volume buttons to be on what we're calling the top, but what is actually more the side in its regular use. Better than it being on the bottom of the iPad, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely better than being on the bottom. But when you're holding it, it's still, say if you are holding it in landscape, it's a strange spot to put them. It's not immediately reachable. it would kind of be underneath your palm if you're holding the iPad to watch a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, you certainly I've never seen any buttons put on the very bottom edge of anything like that. But I don't know. Maybe the idea is that they're just not going to be used often enough for the exact position to matter. But I think that...
Actually, I've been thinking this whole time that the volume buttons were on the left edge when you're in portrait, but they weren't, were they? They were on the right side.
Yes, they were.
So they did have to move them for the Apple Pencil. Which
the iPhone has them on the left side, so it wouldn't be unheard of for them to have just switched sides.
But you might want to dock the iPad mini in like a keyboard case or something. I don't even know if they exist for the mini. Or the smart case. And having them on the bottom would disrupt all of that.
That's true. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I think I'm starting to see the logic in the choice now.
So, yeah. Yeah, I think you've been fine anywhere. But yeah, that makes sense. So I think the most exciting part for me is the purple color iPad mini. I like that quite a bit.
Yep.
I was a big fan of the lavender colored iPhone 12 when it came out. So this is really cool. And it's in a product that I'm very interested in purchasing. So it might actually be something I get.
Yeah, I feel really interested to buy it as well. I can't think where I'm going to use it, but why do you want to buy it? Convince me.
Well, I don't think my use case is going to be a very big selling point for you, but I think I mentioned in the show in the past that I use my iPad Pro for sheet music, and the iPad Pro is way too big and heavy. So I want to wait until it's in an Apple store. I can hold it and see if the screen is actually big enough on this for my sheet music. But I have a feeling it will be. And I've got this $500 credit that I'm either going to use on an Apple Watch or an iPad mini. And so if the Apple Watch isn't convincing enough for me, I think this is what I'm ending up with.
We'll get to the Apple Watch next. I think you might end up buying a mini though.
Yeah.
That's where I'm putting my money. And the mini gets center stage as well, so it's got the 12 megapixel front camera to facilitate that.
So now just the iPad Air doesn't have it.
Right. It doesn't have ProMotion on the mini, does it?
No, the iPad mini doesn't have ProMotion. That's only the iPad Pro.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, pardon me. Anything else on the mini before we go on to the Apple Watch?
It got USB-C. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Ah, yeah, of course. Huge news.
Yeah. And
one port to rule them all. Slowly taking over Apple's lineup as well.
Very slowly, yeah. So we just got the base iPad and the iPhones now, and then we'll be done with Lightning.
And the AirPods.
Yeah, accessories don't count. Because then we're going to talk about keyboards and trackpads and mice, and yeah, those will catch on eventually. And honestly, charging, I don't mind so much. It's the data transfer speeds that are annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so USB-C. So could make for a good little pocket photography sort of tool as well. Quickly transfer a ton of photos onto your iPad mini. Do a few edits on the fly. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
And the mini is almost as carryable as a phone. I wonder if you could replace a phone with a mini if you didn't need the whole phone part of the phone.
Well, you'd be the prime person to answer that question.
I would be. Maybe that's my next phone, the mini.
Yeah, there you go.
Gosh, that's going to consume my thoughts for the next 2 to 3 months,
Is it going to take you that long to buy a phone?
It's going to take me that long to think about it.
Oh, man. I already have my phone ordered.
All right, Apple Watch.
Uh-huh.
It got a screen update. It's more edge to edge. It's tougher. It looks really nice. Especially if someone coming from a Series 3. Maybe not so much if you're coming from a 5 or a 6. 5 or 6.
Yeah. First of all, it's nothing like the rumors and the leaks that we've been seeing for like 7 or 8 months now. It's not squared off. It's not flat. It's actually rounder now. But also, no immediate launch date.
Yeah, coming later this year, I think it says on the site.
Later this fall, specifically. But yeah,
Okay.
not even next month or anything like that. So we might be, November or so before we see this.
I wonder if that's an effect of the chip shortage or the working from home that everyone's been doing the last few years.
I don't know. I'm very torn on what happened here because it wasn't just one person that was saying we were getting a squared off Apple Watch this year. We had Bloomberg, we had Ming Chi Kuo, John Prosser, who take or leave, but there was a lot of reports corroborating that we were getting a squared off Apple Watch this year. So the fact that it didn't happen and they were all wrong is actually like very surprising and unlikely for all of them to be wrong. So I feel like obviously the squared off Apple Watch exists somewhere. Whether or not it was ever coming this year is hard to say. But the delayed release date of this Apple Watch and the rumors of the squared off Apple Watch hitting production issues in August, maybe this was like a last minute, this new design is not going to work out. We need to take these new components and try to fit it in our existing body solution.
So the body of the watch is the same as previous generations, and the screen is different? That would have to be true for that to make sense.
The screen is different. The crystal on top is different. It's thicker. And the body is slightly different. Like, at least the one obvious difference is instead of two speaker grills on the side, just one long channel down the side now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not significantly different. So I don't know. That's just me trying to account for how all these rumors are wrong. It could very well be that Apple tricked everyone deliberately, trying to leak bad information. But the fact that this watch is also, not available for a couple months, seems like something is up here.
Yeah. I wonder if they did have some square prototypes and they planted them in, under certain people's noses to try and, as like a red herring or to try and expose someone who's leaking this information. Maybe something like that.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time they've done stuff like that. So just not to this extent where they've tricked everyone, but maybe they finally figured out who this group of people that's leaking everything is.
It's actually the VP of watch design.
Well, that's Kevin Lynch, and he is moved on to the Apple Car now.
That's right.
So if we start hearing about Apple Car leaks, then we know who it is.
Actually, I have a new theory.
Okay.
The Apple Car project is actually just the spot where people go when they've been exposed as leakers within the company, and the project doesn't actually exist, but it's just a safe face.
That explains why everyone quickly leaves the company after being put on that project.
Exactly. Ah, yes, the Apple Car.
I think you're onto something.
Anyway, the Apple Watch also gets fast charging, which is nice.
Yeah.
Have charging speeds changed ever on the Apple Watch? I don't know.
I don't think significantly enough they ever called out before, at least. But yeah, 8 minutes of charging is enough for 8 hours of sleep tracking. So if you need to top up before bed, that'll be pretty easy to do now.
Yeah. And was it 45 minutes for a full charge?
I think 45 minutes was like 80% or something.
80%. See, that doesn't sound all that fast to me. Normally when I'm charging the watch, I'll stick on like a 1 hour timer, and I know that's going to get me to 100% from wherever I am. Maybe not from zero, I guess, but I would have thought pretty close.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes for 80% doesn't blow my socks off.
I don't have much point of reference. I just charge my watch overnight, so I've never noticed how long it takes.
Yeah.
I am disappointed that they didn't somehow make it work with like a MagSafe charger, so they could kind of have one charger for everything. But maybe that'll come next year.
The charger is now USB-C at the brick end of things. Cool.
Yep.
And the Apple Watch gets flick type. So it's got an actual on-screen keyboard which you can flick around on or peck at if you've got tiny fingers.
And only possible because of these bigger screens. Otherwise, it could never have been done before.
The screen size was definitely the limiting factor.
Mm-hmm.
And any third-party developers who thought to implement something like this were incredibly wrong. Didn't deserve to be on the App Store, even if they'd already previously were successfully. Now, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it, that they kicked off FlickType just to then implement the exact same thing?
Yeah. Pretty obvious what happened there. But
Real dog act.
Yeah. You'd think that they'd be wising up at this point with all the anti-competitive lawsuits they're in the middle of, but it seems like that's not the case.
And I saw on Twitter that the FlickType developers have taken it to court as well. So hopefully they get some money out of the whole debacle.
It seems like they should. So, yeah, overall, I'm in a hard place with this watch. I do not feel like it's a significant update at all. And probably wouldn't be tempting for me if I was on a Series 6. But by exemplifying a Herculean feat of self-control last year, I did not buy the Apple Watch. So I'm still on a Series 5. And so now I'm looking at a 2-generation upgrade that honestly still doesn't seem that big to me. But when you water it down with the fact that I've got $500 off, then it's really hard to decide what I want to do here. But the iPad mini is so tempting that I think I might wait another year on the Apple Watch.
Well, this does seem like a mini spec bump year. So next year's is surely going to be something major. I think you should wait another year. I know it's literally causing pain on your wrist to wear this 2-year-old watch now. I bet you feel it every day. Every time you put it on, it's as if someone's putting needles into your arm. But one more year. I believe in you. And you want the mini.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the mini is what's going to do it. Otherwise, I would have ordered it just because it'll be so relatively cheap for me.
Next up was the iPhone 13 and 13 mini. So it got some new colors.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Yep. A few little camera updates. So we've got, pardon me, it's got cinematic mode. Actually, should we talk about the camera hardware to start with?
Yeah. So
it still has the ultra wide and the wide on the 13 and 13 mini, so the non-pro models.
Mm-hmm.
But the wide now has IBIS, the in-body image stabilization. So the sensor itself is stabilized. And to create the space for that, the cameras are now in a diagonal orientation to each other arrangement. It looks like in the, the exposés of it, that IBIS unit looks huge. No wonder they had to change it around a bit.
Right, yeah, especially, I imagine the iPhone mini is specifically the reason they had to change the orientation. Because, yeah, otherwise there's no way you could have fit them both next to each other vertically.
No, not without a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
And it also got the new wider aperture lens to let in more light.
Yeah, it seems like the iPhone 13 got all of the nice camera hardware from the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max just for the 13 Pros to then get a giant camera bump over that. So the base iPhone 13 is where 12 Pro was last year.
And these things let us have cinematic mode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new feature that's coming to both the 13 and the 13 Pro.
What did you think about that demonstration?
It dragged on a little bit, I thought.
Well, it was long. I also didn't think it looked very good, though.
Really? Okay. Wait, so it's basically the depth effect in video.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that during the keynote. I don't know how I missed it, but I thought it was literally depth of field changing as the focus changed. But it is the depth effect, so the fake depth of field.
Right.
From the stills photo that's now in video. plus the racking of focus between two different depth effects, plus the ability, all the depth data is saved, so you can go back and actually change the point of focus in post, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part.
So if it completely messes up, as depth effect is known to do,
Mm-hmm.
portrait mode, that's the actual name for it, isn't it? So if portrait mode video messes up, you can just go and turn it off, and you've got a regular video with a huge depth of field.
Right. So I don't know what about the demo specifically. I think it was just like the racking focus that seemed to happen too quickly. It was a little jarring every time it happened, and it makes. I don't think it's a thing that I'm ever going to use, because if under the best conditions of an Apple demo video it looks a little weird to me, then there's no way that I can make it look any better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm less than excited about it as well.
Yeah.
The thing I am excited about, though, is Photographic Styles.
Oh, okay. This appealed to you?
Yeah, I thought so. Instead of just having the same 6 or 7 filters that we've had since like iOS 6,
Mm-hmm.
you can now create your own style. So say if you like a bit of contrast and a bit cooler tone, then you can kind of set that as your style for all your photos. I can't remember anything else about it.
That was, I feel like the gist of it.
Yeah.
I guess someone with a better eye and more knowledge on these things could probably make a lot of use out of this. I would just be scared of like messing up all my photos. I changed some settings and then all my photos look terrible forever.
But like a filter, I bet you can undo it all.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I've definitely picked up a family member's phone before and gone, why the hell are all your photos in the last 7 months created with dramatic cool effect? And they go, oh, what? I wondered why they look weird. Well, guess what? You can turn it off, although you probably have to do it one by one on every single one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a little bit more than a filter, because it'll adjust the scene, but it does try to maintain things like skin tones, so those won't have the effect on them.
Yeah, and like the sky will still be blue,
right?
Even if you got something else crazy going on.
So just like advanced filters, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, advanced filters, and you can customize things like the tone and the warmth on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's it.
Probably not something I'll play with, but it sounds like you will.
Yeah, definitely. It's got the A15 revealed for the first time in the keynote.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly,
impressive. Yeah,
I mean, impressive maybe. They deliberately, seemingly, did not compare it against the A14, and only said it was 30%, 50% faster than leading competition, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which just means it's a small update year, which it's bound to happen. They can't have 2x performance gains every year, so that's fine. But also interestingly, and I guess we'll get to this a bit more with the Pro phones too, it seems they have a binned version of the A15 in the iPhone 13s.
Ah, do they?
Okay. Because the iPhone 13 has a 4-core GPU and the iPhone 13 Pro has a 5-core GPU.
That's right. Yeah.
So
okay.
Probably not enough to make a huge difference, but another way of differentiating the Pro phones this year.
Someone on Reddit had put together just a chart of the Apple SoC's performance over the generations.
Okay.
And CPU performance, yeah, it really flattened out this year. It wasn't a huge increase, but the GPU is still accelerating towards the moon.
Huh.
I wonder if they used the iPhone Pro's specs or non-Pro for that. I wonder if the single core increase was the cause of that huge increase.
Yeah, probably the Pro one. because I don't think the actual 13 is much of a bump over the 12. This is also a bit telling for what a potential M2 Apple Silicon chip will look like, because those will be based on the A15 chips. Seems like it'll be fairly minor over the M1. Or they go a completely different direction, and suddenly the Apple Silicon chips are vastly different from the A series.
Well, something that A15 did give us is some crazy battery life and power efficiency increases.
Right.
Some of the numbers just went through the roof.
Yes.
So
video streaming specifically, right?
Yeah, it went something like 28 hours of streaming video now on one of the phones.
And that is one thing they called out in the keynote, was that the A15 got some new video decoders or something in it.
So if we have to sacrifice a year of crazy performance increases in a chip that's already very impressive for some huge battery life increases, I think that's a trade-off.
I agree.
That pretty much anyone should be happy to make. And if that means the M2 gives you like 25 hours on a computer, that's crazy. I mean, the battery life in the M1 computers is already crazy.
Yeah.
Compared to every other laptop.
Hopefully they don't use that as an excuse to put smaller batteries in the computers, though.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I really love the colors this year. First of all, the pink iPhone that we were talking about a couple months ago actually happened. Not as pink as I was hoping, but it's cool to see. But
yeah, it's like a very light pink.
Yeah. The highlight for me is the midnight color, which looks like it's replaced space gray in the lineup, but it's very close to what slate used to be. It's kind of a bluish black, and I really wish I could get it in the Pro phone.
These are all the non-Pro colors so far.
Yes.
So we've got pink, midnight, starlight, red, and blue.
Yep. So, yeah, but the midnight especially, very, very reminiscent of the slate color, which was my favorite color of iPhone.
Was that the iPhone 5 generation that we had slate?
Yep, just that one year. We had the iPhone 5 in slate, and we had an iPad mini that came in slate. But I think those are the only two devices that actually came in that color.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my 5 was slate. That was nice.
Yeah.
And then the 5S was a lighter version, wasn't it?
That was the first year of space gray.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think of the names Midnight and Starlight?
I think that those names look funny alongside blue, pink, red. Like they should have gone all in on the artsy names, or just, called them all just plain colors.
Yep. Yeah, Starlight really stands out for me. It's a little bit odd. Just call it white or silver.
It's a little bit like a creamy white color. Like it's not quite white. Like a vanilla ice cream color or something. I don't know.
What colors are the iPhone 13 Pros in? Let's move on to that topic.
All right. The iPhone 13 Pro is basically the same colors as last year, but the blue is much lighter and called Sierra blue now.
It's a very good looking blue.
I agree. That is the color of phone that I ordered.
Ah, nice.
So, if you had to guess, and I already gave one detail away, but what would you think the phone that I ordered would be?
Well, you have to have the best of the best, but I don't think that means the Max this year, because that one's just a little bit too big for you. So it's going to be the iPhone 13 Pro in Sierra Blue. And the question is, did you go 1TB or 512? Probably 1 terabyte.
So close.
Oh, it was 512.
Yep, I managed to have the self-control this year and just got the 512. Just because I've got 512 this year, and I'm using about 300 gigabytes of it. And I didn't think that I could justify those extra 700 empty gigabytes for no reason other than to say I have the biggest iPhone.
And $350 as well for that privilege.
Yeah. So between having the smaller iPhone and not the biggest storage tier, I actually, saved quite a bit of money.
Yeah, heaps.
Yeah.
That would be Australian $350, I think. Oh, which side am I on? Yeah, all right, so less in your money.
It's a couple $100.
Good savings, good restraint. Yeah, it would be still, yeah.
Thanks. Glad someone's proud of me.
Sorry? Yeah. Good work. Pre-orders were very recent, weren't they? Were they today in your time?
Yeah, they were this morning.
And availability next week.
Yeah, I managed to get it on launch day again, so I'll have it next week. 1 week from today.
Wow. Good times.
Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having a smaller phone at least.
Yeah.
And
the other few things that you'll get are ProMotion, macro photo ability, and 3x zoom on the standard camera, the zoom camera.
With the trade-off that, I don't know photo terms, the telephoto camera seems to be worse in some ways.
Oh, not again.
I don't know the details, but I've heard people complain that it's worse at gathering light. I don't know what the measurement is of that, though.
Well, that would be the aperture, so let me just have a look. Yeah, right. So the telephoto last generation, I think, was 2.4, f2.4, and I'm seeing f2.8 in this year, so yeah, it'll let less light in,
right?
Which is annoying, because often in low light situations, what you end up with is just the wide camera cropped instead of a shot from the telephoto, which is not great. So it's going to be a full sun outdoors lens to use, I think.
Which is usually when I'm using it anyway, because if you're indoors, my subject's usually not far enough away to need the telephoto lens.
Yeah. And so the wide, the regular, the one in the middle lens has f1.5, and ultra wide is f1.8.
Right. And I am excited to try out macro photos with that ultra wide lens this year.
Yeah, so I put macro photos underneath the iPhone Pro heading. What? Is it coming to the regular 13 as well?
I don't believe so, because the camera setup in the 13 Pro is completely different than the 13.
Just going to do a quick rundown of the tech specs, see what the difference is here.
It's not on the 13 page.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely a completely different camera in the 13. So the 13 ultra wide is the f2.4 aperture lens.
Okay.
And the one in the Pro is f1.8. So yeah, totally different lenses. So that would enable the macro feature as well.
Yeah. So I'm excited to play with that. I'll probably take a lot of close-up photos of everything in my house.
In the demos, it was like centimeters away from the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially with an ultra-wide lens, to be able to get close to something, you have to be like physically incredibly close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. It might ruin all those third-party manufacturers who make the macro add-on attachments for the regular camera.
Yeah, which is not something I'd ever get. So this is my first chance to really ever try macro photography.
Yeah, nice.
Something we didn't mention that both of the phones are getting. The notch is smaller.
Oh, yeah. So smaller in the way that when you're holding the phone in portrait, it's narrower on the sides.
Right. Which, probably makes no difference. Because I don't notice the notch as is. And there's...
Yep, that about sums it up.
Yeah. You're not going to do much else with those extra few pixels of screen space.
No, I haven't seen any mention of the screen space being used for anything else yet. Right. I saw some complaints that they still haven't added the battery percentage back into the top.
Right, yeah. Which I'm pretty sure I don't know. Apple doesn't want you monitoring that closely. Maybe because...
And I don't want to, so...
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me that much.
The phones get ProMotion now. The Pro phones get ProMotion. So instead of recording in H.265, they will record in ProMotion.
Nope. ProMotion is the high refresh rate display.
Sorry? ProRes. Yeah, replace everything I just said with ProRes. But we can also talk about ProMotion because that's probably a bigger feature.
I hope it's bigger. I've had it on my iPad Pro, and I honestly don't notice a difference going back and forth between it and my phone.
Oh, don't you? Oh.
No, not really. But maybe it'll be more obvious once it's on... I use my phone much more than my iPad, so maybe I'll notice it when it's on the device I use more often.
I think you will.
Yeah.
I certainly noticed it on the iPad Pro. Noticed it and loved using it.
If nothing else, it'll contribute to the battery life gains in the Pro phones because it can go down to 10 hertz refresh rate for static content.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But the rumor of having some sort of always-on aspect to the screen as a result of having this low refresh rate combined with an OLED screen didn't eventuate.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. It seems odd that they're only able to get down to 10 hertz refresh when the Apple Watch goes down to 1, but maybe that was the reason. Whatever limitation prevented them from going down to 1 hertz is also why we didn't get an always-on display.
I wonder if they couldn't ramp up quickly enough when action happened on the screen, because complaints I've often seen about variable refresh rate screens is that, say you're sitting at 10 hertz and you start scrolling and you get like a mild stutter as it ramps up to 120 hertz.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if those phones are sitting, like dropping down to 1 and then struggling to ramp it up.
Yeah, that could very well be it. So whatever they did on the iPad is certainly not noticeable. So I trust they can do it well on the iPhone as well.
Is the iPad variable though?
Yeah.
Huh, there you go. And yes, so the phones also can now record in ProRes, not ProMotion.
Right. Which is another thing that I will never use. Mostly.
It'll be handy for those people who make actual movies.
Yeah, those people who bought
with
the
their
1 terabyte
phones.
iPhone.
Well, they'll have to because ProRes is just uses an extraordinary amount of space. Not quite as crazy as actually recording raw video, which is just an astronomical amount of space required. But
I believe on ATP they said that the 1 terabyte iPhone would fill with ProRes video after 4 hours.
I would be surprised if it even took that long.
Yeah.
It'd be like many gigs per minute, is my guess.
Yeah, and then you got to transfer it off the phone with a lightning cable at USB 2.0 speeds.
Nah, just wait for it to upload to iCloud.
Oh, yeah.
Grab it the next week.
Wonder how long that would take.
Yeah. So ProMotion will be handy for people making movies, I guess.
ProRes.
ProRes, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Seems kind of gimmicky.
Gimmicky, but it will be useful for all those people who are making movies.
With iPhones?
Yeah. Steven Soderbergh made a whole feature-length movie with like an iPhone 7.
Yeah, but now it's been done. And people can go back to using real cameras for that.
But Apple wants me to think that real movies are all made with iPhones. And we can get rid of the big Arris and Reds and all those.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to sell there. I guess it's one of those. I mean, I'm guilty of this mentality where it's like, man, I could really do good stuff if I just bought more expensive tools to do it.
Aren't we all?
I could be an artist if I buy an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil. And now I can be a movie maker if I buy an iPhone Pro.
When I got the iPad Pro with the pencil, I did one like YouTube tutorial on how to draw. And I was really happy with the result, but I never went back to it.
Yeah. When I got my first iPad Pro, I did a handful of sketches, but did not go back either. And
notably, ProRes is limited to 4K 30 unless you have the 128 gig model, then it's only 1080p 30.
Yeah, because you need to be able to
but
record
you
more than a
can't
couple minutes of video.
But the thing there is that if you're a filmmaker, you want to record at 24 frames per second, not 30. So that's a weird limitation. I don't know what the purpose of that is.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I guess I just assumed 30 was a maximum and you could choose 24, but I guess it doesn't specify that.
Oh, yeah, no. That'll be it. It's... No. Sorry. It says up to 4K at 30. So it's definitely saying limited at 30, but up to 4K in res. So yeah.
Huh. Okay. And that was it. No AirPods.
No AirPods.
So hopefully that press release comes soon because I need some new ones.
Yeah, me too. I am back to wired now.
Oh man, living like a caveman.
Basically, yes. They do have their perks though.
Oh yeah?
The old wired headphones. Yeah. Exceptionally cheap to replace.
Yeah.
You can just plug into anything. You don't have to pair it.
You get to untangle them every time you pull them out of your pocket.
Yep. You can strangle yourself in your sleep. Another benefit.
Man, so many benefits.
So many. So the iPhone 13 and 13 Pros, definitely an S year.
Yeah.
No complaints here. You have to have an S year every now and then. Just building on what we've got, making it better, continually better.
Yeah.
Continuous improvement, certainly better than, a flash in the pan every 5 years or just doing nothing at all.
I think this solidifies for me that Apple's gotten away from the S name, though.
Oh, yeah. We could probably stop calling it the S year, although we're going to have to come up with a better name.
It's the iPhone 13 year.
But that doesn't continue forwards.
Yeah.
What are we going to call the 15? Oh, it's an iPhone 13 year this year for the 15. That was it, huh?
That was it. I don't have many more thoughts on the keynote.
No, me either. Well, I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And the show notes will be at reddit.com/r/the-Apple-show. I forgot we also had a little topic link stuck in the bottom there.
Oh, yeah, the Korea thing.
Yeah, so South Korea passes a bill banning Apple from requiring developers to use App Store in-app purchase system.
Yeah. To be determined what the actual effect of this will be, because
yeah,
I think there's still one step in whatever the Korean codification process is of it needing to be signed in to go into effect or whatever. And then when it does, I don't think it starts until next year. And then also, weirdly, I mean, maybe not weirdly, but the bill also explicitly only targets Apple and Google and leaves Samsung out of it, a Korean company. So
very suspicious.
Yeah. So Apple's, lobbying our government or asking our government if they're required to comply with this other country that's making laws about only U.S. companies, and so we'll see what actually comes of that.
Plus the whole Epic versus Apple trial, the first one, finished as well, and you would say that Apple won, but we're definitely going to be seeing links to making purchases outside of the App Store in apps.
Yeah, definitely going to come in some shape or form. I think Apple probably tried to get ahead of it a little bit because they announced that they were going to start allowing that for reader apps only, like the week before.
Yep.
So,
but Fortnite's not really a reader app.
No, and they Epic's just not happy with the results at all. They've already filed an appeal.
They did pay the fine though.
Yeah,
$6 million,
which was the 30% of the money they collected through that extra link they had for. It didn't seem like it was very long lived. It's amazing how much money they made in that short time period they had that other payment method up.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, they paid the money, but what they really want is to be able to put their own app store up. So they probably won't be happy until they get that, which I don't think they will.
No, probably not. I was also going to talk briefly about Monterey, but we kind of already did at the start, just how good it is, how stable it is.
Yeah. Yeah, did you have any other thoughts on it?
Only other thing that I didn't mention was my new all-time favorite feature is putting the mouse down the bottom right of the screen and getting a quick note pop up.
Oh, you like that?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, can't get enough of it. I use it all the time.
Huh. I haven't really used
Sounds
it
like
much.
you don't.
I don't dislike it. I just haven't used it at all.
Okay.
But maybe it's just because I've gotten in the habit now of pulling up Spotlight and typing notes when I quickly want to type a note.
Mm-hmm.
I need to relearn just to move my mouse down to the corner to do that.
The thing is that it always pulls up the same note
Right.
when you do it. That's probably configurable, I bet. But just always having quick access to the same note. Because I've always got a note called Note, and it's just random list of random stuff.
Oh, really? I don't have anything like that in my notes app. My understanding was, at least in the iOS or iPadOS 15 announcement this summer, was that it was a little bit dynamic. Because I thought if you pulled up a quick note on iPad, if you're on a different web page, like you could have a note for every web page you're on, or whatever context you were currently in could have its own quick note. But
I've just checked the preferences in macOS Notes, and the option is resume a last quick note or not.
okay.
That's all you've got there.
Well, maybe it's a little bit more dynamic in iPadOS only.
I bet. Yeah.
macOS doesn't really have the same concept of I forget what the term is, but current activity you're in or whatever that iPad has.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing is the new Safari tab layout.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, just some thoughts on that. I absolutely cannot deal with the colors in the tab bar. I find it just so confusing to know which tab is active when the colors are up there.
Okay.
But I do really like the compact view. So when the tab bar is part of the address bar in the same row.
Oh,
Big fan
okay.
of that. Yeah, so that's what I'm rolling with. No colors, but compact.
Interesting. I am the opposite. I am colors, but I have a separate tab bar. So the colors don't disturb me at all. Actually, I'm not a big fan of the tab bar, though. I like the older tabs, where it's a little more obvious which one was selected. I think little pill shapes don't make much sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I guess the compact view helps with that a bit because the one that's selected is the wider one.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, so what you're saying is the opposite of what you're doing is actually better.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that I just use the default settings, and maybe I need to mess with it a bit.
Okay.
So, but I generally don't like using things that aren't the default settings because I assume they'll go away eventually, and I don't want to have to relearn things at some point when Apple drops the non-default options.
Yeah. Yeah, when I changed over the drives in my MacBook Pro, I didn't bother restoring from a backup. I just installed Monterey fresh. Yeah, there is a surprisingly few number of tweaks I need to make to a fresh install of macOS. Either I've just forced myself to like all the defaults, or they are just good defaults, or I don't know what, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't tweak much either.
I install macOS, sign into iCloud, grab a few things from the Mac App Store, and Bob's your uncle.
Yep, I'm definitely in the same boat. There's not a lot of configuration for me.